February 2016. Inside the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, a digital vault opened. In a matter of hours, nearly $1 billion vanished from the account of the Bangladesh Central Bank. This wasn't a robbery you could see. There were no masks, no guns. There were no shattered windows or tripped alarms. It was executed silently, digitally, over weeks of patience. When the money left the vault, the security systems didn't flag a single error. The passwords were correct. The credentials were authentic. To the most secure banking system on Earth, it looked like a standard day of business. But it was a lie. How is this possible? How does a hacker trick the Federal Reserve into handing over the GDP of a small nation? And how did the fate of that $1 billion come down to a single plastic printer? Today, we are going to walk you through the heist that nearly broke the global banking system. We will show you the method the attackers used that went completely unnoticed. We will expose the Lazarus group, the state-sponsored army hiding in the shadows. And we will answer the terrifying question: if a typo hadn't saved them, would the world's economy have survived? To understand the genius of this crime, first, you have to understand the target. The Bangladesh Bank didn't just keep its money under a mattress. Like almost every sovereign nation on Earth, they held their foreign currency reserves in the safest place possible, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. But there is an ocean between Dhaka and New York. So, how do they move the money? They use a system called SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. Think of SWIFT as the nervous system of the global economy. It is the messaging channel that banks use to talk to each other. When a bank in London sends money to Tokyo, they send a SWIFT message. It is built on one thing: trust. If a message comes from a SWIFT terminal, the banking world treats it as gospel truth. It is assumed that the only person who can send that message is an authorized official sitting inside the secure room of the bank. Every outgoing transfer made using this terminal triggers a series of local confirmations. It creates a digital log. And crucially, it generates a physical receipt. In the Bangladesh Bank, inside a windowless room on the 10th floor, there sat an HP LaserJet printer. It was hardwired to the SWIFT terminal. Its only job was to print a paper record of every single dollar that left the building. It was the ultimate defense: evidence. Even if you hacked the computer, even if you erased the digital logs, the paper would remain. The paper cannot be hacked. So they thought, because the attackers knew about the printer, and they had a plan to silence it. Weeks before the heist, January 2016. At the Bangladesh Bank, everything seemed to be working perfectly. Employees were checking emails. They were processing loans. They were drinking coffee. Little did they know, the enemy was already inside. These attackers were not rash. They were not teenage script kiddies looking for attention. They were professionals. They didn't smash the front door. They sent phishing emails to unsuspecting bank employees. All it took was one click. One employee, tired, perhaps distracted, clicked a link, and silently, a back door opened. But the Lazarus group didn't steal the money immediately. This is what makes them terrifying. They waited. For weeks, they lurked inside the network. They were watching. They studied the entire system. They learned the names of the staff. They learned who held the keys to the SWIFT terminal. They learned the shift patterns. They realized that the bank had each poor network segmentation. The secure SWIFT network was connected to the regular office network. It was a fatal flaw. They moved laterally, from computer to computer, inching closer to the secure room on the 10th floor. And then, they found a printer. Why go after a printer? Why waste code on a piece of office equipment? Because they knew that if they stole the money, the printer would scream. It would print a receipt saying $1 billion transferred. Someone would see it. They would call New York. They would stop the heist. So, before they could steal the gold, they had to kill the watchdog. February 4th, 2016. Thursday night. The attackers are ready. They have chosen this date for a very specific reason. A reason that shows just how brilliant and calculated this attack was. Friday is a weekend in Bangladesh. The bank is closed. The staff is at home, but Friday is a workday in New York. The Federal Reserve is open, and then Sunday is a weekend in New York. By timing the attack on a Thursday night, they engineered a 48-hour blind, a period of time where the two banks were out of sync. When Dhaka was asleep, New York was awake. When New York slept, Dhaka was awake. They created a window of time where no one would pick up the phone. The stage was set. Inside the empty offices of the Bangladesh Bank, the malware woke up. It targeted the software running the printer. Wait, let me tell you this. You remember I told you at the beginning of this video that it was the printer that they are using to print the receipt of all their outgoing transactions? But what if the printer stopped working? It is exactly what you are thinking. On Friday morning, a staff member walked into the secure room. He looked at the printer. It was silent. The tray was empty. He checked the paper tray. It was full. He checked the ink. It was full. He assumed it was a standard glitch, so he walked away. It is the weekend. Big mistake. That printer wasn't broken. The malware was intercepting the print jobs. Every time a confirmation receipt came in from New York saying transaction approved, the malware caught it and deleted it. Imagine the bank is on fire, but the smoke alarms have been disabled. The staff sat in their offices, drinking tea, completely unaware that their vault was being emptied. While the printer sat silent, the money began to fly. The attackers used their stolen credentials to access the Swift terminal. They didn't just ask for a few $1,000s. They swung for the fences. They queued up 35 separate payment instructions. Total value, nearly $1 billion. They sent these instructions to the Federal Reserve in New York. From the Fed's view, the instruction is authentic. The message comes from the Swift terminal itself. The codes match. The encryption matches. So, the automated systems in New York did exactly what they were designed to do. They began to process the payments. The money started to drain. $81 million was instantly transferred out. Where did it go? It didn't go to another central bank. It went to the Philippines, to 4 specific accounts at the Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation. Accounts that had been opened months earlier with fake driver's licenses and $500 in cash. Another $20 million was sent to a non-profit organization in Sri Lanka. The money was moving fast. Once it hit the Philippines, it was withdrawn, converted into local currency, and moved to casinos. Why casinos? Because in 2016, Philippines casinos were a black hole. They were exempt from strict money laundering laws. Once the money was turned into casino chips, it became untraceable. It could be cashed out, clean, and invisible. The plan was working perfectly. 100 million was gone. 800 million more was in the queue. The Bangladesh bank was about to be destroyed, but the attackers made a mistake. It wasn't a firewall that stopped them. It wasn't a password. It was a spelling mistake. As they were making the transfers, they had to type in the names of the beneficiaries. For the $20 million transfer to Sri Lanka, the money was supposed to go to the Shalaka Foundation. But the hacker, maybe he was tired. Maybe his hand slipped. Maybe he didn't speak English well. He typed the word foundation. But he didn't type Foundation. He typed Fandation, foundation. The transfer was routed through a correspondent bank in Germany, Deutsche Bank. Somewhere in Germany, a clerk was looking at the screen. He saw the word foundation. He paused. What is a foundation? He checked the list of registered charities. There was no Shalaka Foundation. It was a tiny mistake. Most people would neglect it. But this clerk, he flagged it. He sent a message back to the Bangladesh bank seeking clarification. Did you mean foundation? But remember, it was the weekend in Bangladesh. No one answered. The silence was suspicious. Deutsche Bank halted the transaction. And because this one transaction was halted, it triggered a manual review of the other transactions in the queue. Suddenly, the Federal Reserve in New York woke up. They looked at the list. Why is the Central Bank of Bangladesh sending nearly $1 billion to random entities in the Philippines and a foundation in Sri Lanka? This doesn't make sense. They slammed on the brakes. They froze the remaining transactions. $850 million was stopped, just inches from the door. Could this typo really save them? What about the funds that had already been sent? Saturday morning, Bangladesh Bank. The staff finally managed to fix the printer software. Suddenly, the machine roared to life. It began to print the backlog of receipts, spitting out page after page. The staff stared at the paper in horror. The blood drained from their faces. They realized the bank had been hacked. They scrambled to contain the damage. They tried to call New York. They tried to call the Philippines. But it was the weekend. The lines were dead. The time zones were working against them. By the time they got through on Monday, $1 million and was gone. It had been dropped in the Philippines and had been immediately laundered. It moved from the bank accounts to a foreign exchange broker, to the casinos, and into the pockets of the Lazarus group. Deep forensics analysis revealed the truth. The malware signatures, the operational patterns, the code. It was the Lazarus group, the same group that hacked Sony Pictures. They had been inside the network for weeks unnoticed. The bank's poor network segmentation allowed them to move freely. Their weak monitoring allowed them to stay hidden. And their dependence on single alerts, like a printer confirmation, gave the hackers the perfect blindfold. North Korea denied all charges about this. They called it American propaganda. But the money trail doesn't lie. In the end, it was later stated that some funds were recovered from the casinos, but a large portion of that 81 million remains missing to this day.